What's up, guys? It's Tony here. Welcome back to Man Cave Studios. I want to start a new series on this channel. We are approaching the 2020 presidential election, and so I want to make a series where I predict the Electoral College map. So I'm starting this series today, April 8th, 2020, because today Bernie Sanders dropped out of the race. So it looks like Biden is going to be the presumptive nominee. He was going to get it anyway. He was absolutely destroying Bernie in some of the more critical states. I mean, he crushed him in Florida. Um, Bernie was supposed to win states like California by a lot more, and he just didn't. Biden really had just an incredible comeback on Super Tuesday. So I'm not going to tell you where I stand. If you've watched this channel in the past, then you would know. But I'm going to try to leave my partisan point of view out of it. But right now, this is what it looks like. It looks like Biden, well, the likely total vote count for Biden is 232. For Trump, it's 204. Biden is guaranteed at least 183 electoral votes from hard blue states. Trump guaranteed at least 125 from hard red states like Alabama, Mississippi, etc. So basically, when it comes down to it, I'm just going to assume that all the likely states are going to go to the respective nominees. So I have Biden right now with 232, Trump with 204. There's 102 swing votes, and that is between. Hold on. Let's see if I can get this to work this time. Nope. Trying to put myself in the bottom right corner. There we go. Alright, anyway, that is between 6 swing states. So these 6 swing states are going to basically determine the election. So basically, I'm going to be going off recent polls. There are a lot more recent polls for states like Florida. I'm going to start with the most northern part of the country, and I'm going to basically look at the polls first to make sure that I'm getting all the information right. So let's start with Wisconsin. So Wisconsin, in terms of Biden versus Trump, I saw before he was ahead. Now, this is a weird state. Yeah, Biden is, the most recent poll shows, oh my god, ad block is, or the site is making me turn off ad block. So, among registered voters, Biden has won every, or almost every poll this year in Wisconsin. The most recent by 2.5 percentage points. The most recent large sample size, in which there were more than 1,000 people surveyed, went to Biden by a margin of 3 percentage points. And then, in terms of likely voters, the last one was done by the New York Times, the last one was done by the New York Times, and it was among 600 or so likely voters, and Biden won that by 2 percentage points. Now, Wisconsin is extremely corrupt right now, and that's the problem. Wisconsin had a problem with the primary. The Democratic governor, wanted to suspend it, but the Wisconsin Supreme Court, which is conservative, wanted to continue the primary, even with the pandemic going on. I think that Wisconsin is a state that's so gerrymandered, and it's controlled by Republicans right now, and the gerrymandering was done by Republicans. So I think that it's kind of a toss-up. I think this is a toss-up state either way. Biden's not ahead by that much. So I personally have to think that the Wisconsin state legislature and the Wisconsin Supreme Court is going to take every measure imaginable to ensure that Trump wins their state, and that's a critical state. If it was Bernie against Trump, then Bernie would definitely not win Florida. He would definitely not win Arizona, 2 more moderate states. Pennsylvania and North Carolina would be up for grabs. Michigan, I think he would win, and it would pretty much come down to Wisconsin, which I think is going to be a red state. So all the people that were saying about Bernie Sanders that he should have been the nominee, not quite. It's a lot better for the Democrats having a moderate in Biden as VP, or as running as president. Sorry. Next state, Michigan. Michigan, Biden is ahead in. There's not that much, like, in terms of corruption up there, at least, in terms of Michigan since the Flint crisis. There's still corruption, but most of it leans Democrat, and it doesn't have an effect anyway. Um, the most recent poll among likely voters taken middle of last March, 600 likely voters voted Biden plus 3 percentage points. The most recent poll total had Biden up 4.5 percentage points almost. Every single poll has shown Biden winning by at least 3 percentage points, except for one, which was done by the New York Times among likely voters. But there have been a ton um, of polls among likely voters. Biden has won every single one. It hasn't been a tie once. Trump hasn't won one. So I think that Michigan is going to go to Biden. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a state that I think Biden's going to win either way. He was born, it's his home state. Right now, he has, in the most recent poll, a 3.8 percentage lead, or percent lead over Trump. The last one among likely voters, done by the University of Wisconsin, had him up by 1. He tied in one poll in February, but the recent polls have shown him kind of pulling ahead. He kind of fell off a little bit in October last year, and that's kind of continued a little bit into this year. But the two most recent polls show that Biden's ahead. I think that because it's his home state, Biden is going to win Pennsylvania. North Carolina. Um, let's see this real quick. I think that North Carolina is going to go to Trump either way, but the polls right now are showing that Biden's ahead in North Carolina. So I'm just gonna the most recent one among likely voters, however, was done by the New York Times, and it shows Trump is up by 2 percentage points. Actually, both of the polls done among likely voters, and the difference is registered voters are those who are simply registered to vote. Likely voters are voters that are probably actually going to vote. Just because they're registered to vote doesn't mean you're going to actually vote.
Want a better future for New Jersey?
Oh boy.
Fill out your census.
That's not what I wanted to happen. Um, Sorry. Some ad just came up. Alright. So anyway, I think that North Carolina is still going to go to Trump because the poll was taken among likely voters, which leaves us. Oh, I'm going to fill in Nebraska, the one county red anyway, because it's insignificant either way. So it's a district, so it's not well. It's weird the way Nebraska and Maine do their elections is weird. But I'm just gonna save time and just say that the first, I think it was the second district in Nebraska is going to be red as well. Um, all right, Arizona. This is kind of surprising to see, but Biden is absolutely destroying Trump, especially as of recently in in Arizona, um, which could provide for an upset. It was a state that Obama lost both years that he was running, um, but for whatever reason, the most recent poll among likely voters done earlier in March had Biden up by 6 percentage points, most recent by 3.8. A lot of the ones have been close, but all the ones among likely voters, except for one, have either resulted in a tie or Biden winning by between 2 to 6 percentage points. So I think that this might be an upset state, and I'm going to say it's blue. I mean, it was obvious that in 2008 it would go to McCain because that was his home state. In 2012, we were kind of divided more. Um, it's a real toss-up state. Um, so anyway, moving on. Florida is a big one. Florida, I think, is going to determine the election. A lot of people think it's going to determine the election. Biden performed really well in Florida in the primaries. Had it been simply, well, I think I'm gonna hold back on that real quick, but Biden right now is ahead in the polls by 4/10 of a percentage point as of the most recent poll. However, another one done among 3,000 registered voters has Biden up by 6 percentage points. The most recent one among likely voters, however, had Trump up by 3 percentage points. Um, the New York Times did one last October, and that one had Biden up by 2 percentage points. This state is going to be insane either way. It's definitely going to be too close to call. This is going to probably be the deciding state. It's not going to be Ohio or anything. It's probably going to be Florida. Um, just for time's sake, because I've already technically called Arizona for Biden, and that would put him over the top, I'm just going to say it goes to Trump. Um, I think there was a problem in 2016. I'm not aware of, their Congress or their governor. I think they have a Republican governor. So Democrats are going to have to win by a lot in Florida, and if they want to, secure the presidency, because there could be some corruption going on down there against Biden. So basically, right now, if you look at it, these are the three states that are up for grabs: Wisconsin, Arizona, and Florida. The others, I think, are safe to call. I think that Pennsylvania is clearly Biden's, Michigan is clearly Biden's, and North Carolina is clearly Trump's. Um, so this looks pretty daunting for Trump right now, especially because Biden's ahead in Wisconsin. And I personally believe, and we'll see in the coming months, but I personally believe that Amy Klobuchar is going to be the vice president, or is going to be Biden's running mate. He's already pledged that it's going to be a female. I think that he would be insane not to pick Klobuchar as his VP, because she can campaign pretty hard in Wisconsin. So even if you lose out on states like Arizona and Florida, you would at least still turn this blue. And really, all he needs is one of these three states right now to win, while Trump would need all three to win. So the odds look right now like they're stacked against Trump. Um, Again, we'll see how he deals with the pandemic, and if, you know, the later polls show. I mean, to this point, he's done a pretty poor job in dealing with it. I think you can say that even from a nonpartisan point of view. I was hoping that he would succeed. Um, Unfortunately, that has not been the case. He spent the first few months claiming that coronavirus was a hoax. Um, that kind of is going to hurt you come election season. His approval rating is going up right now, but only slightly, and I don't think it's going to be enough to sway some of the other swing states like Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Michigan. Well, North Carolina anyway, but Michigan and Pennsylvania, to vote for him. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Let me get rid of these to do my little outro if OBS will permit. Alright, again, I want to make this kind of a monthly thing. I want to make it kind of a series. Um, there's going to be a lot of change in the next month or so, depending on how Trump deals with the pandemic, and depending on what the next polls show, in terms of likely voters, in terms of registered voters. So yeah, I guess we'll see. Thank you guys so much for watching, and peace out, broskies.